There were just a lot of Apple announcements for one day. Some of them are gonna change your day-to-day life, but I'm gonna sift through that whole WWDC keynote to try to let you know exactly what. Of course, Apple's Vision Pro stole the show with their $3,500 virtual augmented reality headset, but there were so many other details that I don't want to get lost. So first, let's go through some of the things that we're all gonna be using all the time. There's a few things that have been in my wish list for a while. I keep bringing them up that I want. A big one has been a 15-inch MacBook Air, and Apple gave me that right out of the gate. I've talked a lot about how great it is to edit and travel on the M2 MacBook Air. It can really handle everything I throw at it. And the good news is that this 15-inch is at a pretty reasonable entry price as well. I was worried that the entry price would be too close to the 14-inch MacBook Pro, but there's a pretty good differentiation here. So I think this is going to be a computer for everyone. So many people that thought they needed to buy a Pro can probably now use a MacBook Air. I was also really looking forward to see what they'd finally do with an Apple Silicon Mac Pro, and they surprised me by not changing it at all. It basically looks like they took the fantastic internals of the Mac Studio and put them inside the bigger enclosure of the Mac Pro. I think we're officially at the point where the Mac Pro is way above what most of us need. They also updated the Mac Studio. They added the M2 Max and the M2 Ultra, and those are enough for almost all of us. It's basically the same computer in the Mac Pro, but with more expandability, but you can't expand it into graphics cards or more RAM. You still need to buy all of those on the SoC built into the chip that you're choosing. So you're already making those decisions on the Mac Studio. The Mac Pro is really if you need a ton of I/O devices or a lot of internal storage or other things that I'm not really sure about. And all of this came in just the first few minutes. They kind of rushed through it. So I'm still kind of digesting what exactly this means. But I know that 15-inch is something I'm going to have my eye on. I've made a lot of videos about my favorite apps on the Mac and on the iPhone, and there is a way to get some of the best of those all bundled together, and that's using Setapp, the sponsor of this video. Let me show you a few of my favorites. This is Downy, which just lets you download YouTube videos. So for example, that's how I download the keynote presentations, which I then add into YouTube videos like this. Or let's say you're recording your screen, which I do all the time. Capto is a great way to capture it, and you can also edit it within the app. Permute is a great companion to all of these because you can basically throw any file format into it and it'll transcode those videos or photos into the format you actually need. Whenever I have lost or deleted files, Disk Drill is a great way to recover them. And another one that it's tiny, but I always notice as soon as it's not installed on a machine is Bartender. Basically, it cleans up all of those little icons in the top right of your screen, puts them into one drop down so that it's much cleaner, but you can still access them quickly. And now Setapp is also available for your iPhone. So I've been using ClearVPN. It's a great VPN solution. And then also Gemini, which helps you detect and delete duplicate files. But a great example of why I really enjoy Setapp just happened the other day. So I was looking for better ways to remove the backgrounds from objects. This is really easy to do on your iPhone, but not so obvious on the Mac. So I just searched in Setapp a cutout background image. And that's how I found SpeedCut. I just right click and remove the background from any image. And this was already included in my subscription. So check out Setapp from the link below and see all the ways they can improve your workflow. At every Apple event, I have my fingers crossed to see updates to AirDrop, which may sound small and trivial, but it's a feature I use all the time. It keeps me in the Apple ecosystem in so many ways. And sometimes it doesn't work or do as much as I'd like. And they announced some pretty big updates. The one that I think is going to affect me and most people most of the time is that now it will carry on the transfer even if you move out of range using the internet. The files stay full quality, which is great. It means there's no compromise. It just might take a little bit longer. You don't need to stand right next to the person to complete the transfer. And they really emphasize this new proximity way of initiating AirDrop. There's a really cool animation for name drop, which is a way of sharing contact information. The two iPhones come close to each other, and then it looks like there's a little explosion or it passes the info back and forth. They mentioned some huge updates to autocorrect. It seems like it's going to work completely differently, which I hope means it's going to work better because it hasn't been great for a while now. And this is a good chance to point out something about how Apple talks. I think a lot of people think Apple is way behind in AI because they don't talk about it that much. But there's language that they use that means AI. So for example, here they're saying that as a transformer-based autocorrect. And transformers are a big part of LLMs, the large language models that are used in what we're usually referring to as AI. Also, Apple talks about machine learning a lot, which is also AI. All of this language is pretty nebulous, and I think only really the programmers working in it understand the subtle differences. But these are the little flags to look out for in an Apple presentation for times that they're using AI. So hopefully AI-based autocorrect works better than whatever it was doing before, because
those moments where you just want to type a ducking word.
The new macOS update also includes a bunch of new drone screensavers, which I'm a huge fan of. I just did a video about how to create your own. If you have a ton of drone footage sitting around, I think you should make your own screensaver. Anyway, now they are built into the Mac, not only tvOS. And a cool little detail is if they're playing as you unlock your computer, it seems to gradually stops in place and becomes your desktop background. Very clever. macOS also gets game mode, which improves the responsiveness of Bluetooth. So your controllers, AirPods, anything connected to the machine is going to move a lot quicker back and forth and prioritizes the computer resources to the game you're playing. So background tasks won't be taken away from your frame rates. And there's a moment in the keynote I got so excited. Hideo Kojima came out, and he is a legend in video games. I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. And I was really hoping he was going to announce some Mac exclusive, but instead he said that Dead Stranding is coming to the Mac, which means I'm finally going to play that game. I've been putting it off, but this is a good excuse just to benchmark new computers with a beautiful game. And he also alluded to future developments for the Mac. I can't wait to see what that is. They're doing something very clever for video calls where they separate the background and the foreground and put things in between it. So the examples were kind of cheesy, like 2 thumbs up, made some kind of reaction behind you. But I think overall this can add to all sorts of enhanced reality. For example, they had presentations where you can be cut out, or the objects that you're showing in your presentation are slightly over your shoulder. I love this. It's subtle, but having it in software that all of us are using just adds to this sense of presence when we're using video calls more often. There were a bunch of Safari updates. The only one that stuck in my head was password sharing, very useful. And then they started talking about updates to AirPods, and I've been hoping for the USB-C version of AirPods Pro. It's not what happened. These were all software updates. So now you'll be able to get features like adaptive audio, which changes the noise reduction or transparency mode automatically as you're walking around. And they also said that they improved the auto switching from device to device, which is good because it doesn't work that well. I've actually turned that off on all my devices because it was doing it incorrectly and changing when I didn't want to. Hopefully, it's fixed those problems. Apple TV got FaceTime viewing parties. Apple Watch got new faces, waypoints that you drop in a 3D map. I want this button to get a lot more useful on my Apple Watch Ultra. Hopefully, this is one way to do it. And finally, let's get to the Vision Pro and what I really think of it. So, the $3,500 price tag, let's start right there because it's something everybody's looking at and everybody's thinking about. That price is not for you. Like, you are probably not the person that should be buying this first version of it. They went all out with this hardware. I bet their margins are much lower than Apple's used to getting because they don't expect to sell a lot of them. They have to seed the market so that developers and a group of enthusiastic users can start using the product and just begin this AR revolution. And by calling it the Vision Pro, they are clearly positioning this as a professional version of the product. So this will probably always be the most expensive product in that lineup, and I expect in the future there'd be something like the Vision SE or the Vision Air or whatever. There's going to be more consumer-friendly priced models that do a little bit less. But for now, they're starting at the high end, showing the most that this product can do. And everyone that watches the consumer electronics world has been waiting to see what's Apple's killer app going to be that gets us all to start wearing computers on our face. And the surprise was that they didn't actually have an answer for that. Instead, they treated it as a professional computer. This is a way to interact with the apps that you already have or some future apps that they're developing, but in a more immersive way. They talked about this in terms of spatial computing. So the interface is in the space around you, which you very much can see. They seem to treat the default as that you will be in a mixed reality environment. So you see everything around you and the interface is on top of it, including casting shadows on top of real life objects. There's a little crown interface to dial in how much of reality versus virtual reality you want to be experiencing. I really liked when they showed a person walking into the room and it just opens up a little transparent hole so you can see them and interact with them. Because this is the biggest issue with any of these headset products, is how closed off you're willing to be. I'd heard the rumors that there'd be a display on the outside so you could see people's eyes, and what I was imagining from that It's pretty goofy. Like I was picturing googly eyes, or I don't know. It just seemed impossible to make it look realistic. So seeing the keynote examples of how that could look, I was very impressed. I know people will have had hands-on time with this by the time I release this video even. So on day one, here's my big impressions. Apple's done an amazing job on this hardware. They've clearly been working at it a long time. It looks better than any other headset. And I don't think the price is unreasonable because I don't think they expect to sell a lot of them. Again, this is for early adopters. Expect it to go down in price drastically. If you buy one this year, it won't be worth as much next year. You should only buy it if you need to be one of the first people using it, or you want to develop for it, or maybe if you want to review it. But I think we're going to need to see it in the market before we decide how viable this is as a product. I'm mostly only interested in it from a professional perspective. As a consumer, I don't really want to sit around in my living room totally closed off from the world. Even their examples on the airplane, that looks really comfortable and enjoyable, but I like existing in reality as well. So this would be my biggest question for you guys. Tell me in the comments, how willing are you to wear this around the house or in public? I also really want to see how the gesture-based controls work. Apple was referring to the controllers as clumsy or awkward. I don't remember what they called them, but as if it's a downside. But it means that there's nothing tactile and physical to interact with. And I found using the Quest 2, just squeezing the triggers, pressing the buttons, they correspond to objects you can see in the games that you're playing. So it gives this extra sense of reality. And in the Apple world, it's all going to be touching space and air with nothing to push back against. So I really want to see how that feels. And a huge challenge we're all going to be facing is reviewing these products when you're not using them, because this is a 2D format. So I want to see, what does the Vision Pro mean for creators? Will the iPhone 14 be able to take spatial photos and videos? And will we ever be using them? Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.